"I'm ready to be your wife again," my ex said after vanishing for a year. When she showed up, my new partner opened the door pregnant. Her smile said everything. She finally realized she wasn't irreplaceable, that I never expected to see her again. When my wife left, she didn't slam doors or scream. She just packed a weekend bag and said, "I need time to find myself." That was the last thing I heard from her for almost a year. We'd been married 6 years. I was 35, she was 32. No kids, both career-oriented, typical middle-class life. Small house outside Portland, a Labrador named Moose, a mortgage that still smelled like optimism. At first, I believed her when she said it was temporary. I gave her space. I texted her every few days, then once a week. Then I stopped. By month 2, I learned she'd quit her job, deleted her social media, and apparently moved across the country. A mutual friend mentioned something about a retreat. Another said she was with someone new. I didn't confirm either rumor. I didn't need to. Because when someone really leaves, you feel it. Not just the absence, but the finality. The first few months were a blur of denial and mechanical survival. I went to work, fed the dog, mowed the lawn. The house felt haunted, not because she died, but because she still existed somewhere, just by choice not here. I tried therapy. I drank too much for a while. I learned to sleep without checking if the other side of the bed was warm. At month 4, I filed for separation. My lawyer said I could push for divorce, but part of me wasn't ready. I didn't even hate her. That's the weird part. I just couldn't understand how someone could turn off love like a switch. Month 6 was when things started to shift. A friend of mine, Qley, started coming over to help me with the dog and yard work. She was quiet, funny, grounded. She didn't ask questions about my wife, and I didn't offer details. One night, she brought homemade soup when I had the flu. We watched old sitcoms. She laughed with her whole face, and I realized I hadn't heard genuine laughter in that house for half a year. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't rebound. It was slow, like sunlight creeping back after a long winter. By month 10, Qley and I were officially together. By month 11, she moved in. By month 12, she was pregnant. When I tell people this timeline, they assume I was trying to replace my wife. I wasn't. I was just trying to live again. Then, exactly 1 year and 10 days after she left, my wife came back. It was a Saturday morning in March. Qley and I were finishing breakfast when we heard a car pull into the driveway, an old silver Prius. I looked out the window, and my stomach dropped. There she was. Same dark hair, same coat. Like she'd been frozen in time and thawed out just to ruin a calm morning. Qley looked at me, confused. I just said, "That's her." The doorbell rang. Qley went to open it while I stood frozen in the kitchen. I heard my wife's voice first. Light, rehearsed, almost cheerful. "Hi, is Alex here?" "I'm his wife." Then Qley's voice, calm, even warmer than I expected. "Oh, you must be the one who disappeared." "I'm Qley." There was a pause. I could almost hear the confusion turning into realization. Qley stepped aside, and my wife, my ex-wife, technically, saw me standing there, and her eyes went wide. Then lower, to Qley's stomach. Qley was 6 months along, visibly pregnant. My wife, or whatever she wanted to be now, smiled in that tight, fake way people do when the script in their head suddenly catches fire. "I came to talk," she said softly. "I'm ready to come home. I made mistakes." I didn't even get angry. I just stared at her, and for the first time, I saw her for who she really was. Not the woman I married, but the one who believed disappearing was a valid form of communication. Qley's hand slipped into mine. I said quietly, "You don't live here anymore." She looked around like the furniture might disagree with me. "But this is our home." "No," I said. "It was. Now it's mine. And hers." The silence that followed was almost kind. She turned, muttered something about needing closure, and left. When the door shut behind her, Qley exhaled and whispered, "She really thought she could just walk back in, huh?" I nodded. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about walking back in. It was about proving to herself she could. She couldn't. The next few days were surreal. My ex didn't just vanish from my life a year ago. She left a vacuum of expectation behind, one she seemed to think she could just waltz back into. But life had moved on without her. Qley and I had spent the weekend preparing the nursery. Soft blues, little stuffed animals lined up on the shelf, a mobile spinning gently above the crib. When I walked into the living room Monday morning, my ex's car was in the driveway. I didn't answer the door at first. She knocked lightly, then harder, then began calling my name. Qley opened it. Her expression was calm, but her hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "Hi," my ex said, that rehearsed smile plastered on her face. "Can we talk?" I want to come home. I'm ready to be your wife again." Qley's gaze didn't waver. She was glowing, 6 months pregnant, and she didn't flinch. "Alex isn't available right now," she said. "I'm sorry." My ex blinked, confusion replacing the practiced charm. "What do you mean?" "I just want to." "You left," I said, stepping forward. "For a year. You vanished. You made your choice. Life doesn't pause because you change your mind." Her lips parted, and she stumbled, trying to find words. I didn't give her a chance. I didn't have to. Her eyes already told me everything. The shock, the recognition, the tiny crack in the image she'd built of herself as indispensable. She finally muttered something about the dog, the house, me. I shook my head. "Everything you think is yours isn't anymore. I've moved on. She's carrying our child, and we're building a life. You aren't part of that." She stood there, trying to process the scene. My calm, steady voice, Qley's serene presence, the visible proof that my life had continued beautifully without her. I, I just thought. "You thought you were irreplaceable," I finished. And she was quiet. For the first time in a year, I saw her vulnerability stripped of all the rehearsed charm, manipulation, and self-justification. She wasn't a villain. She was just ordinary, replaceable, and she had finally realized it. The rest of the week, she tried contacting friends, mutuals, even sending emails asking if she could come by when Alex is busy. Every time, I forwarded the messages to Qley. "We're fine. Don't worry about us," I'd say. She never replied after that. I realized something important in those moments. The calm, quiet life we've built, the one with trust, shared responsibility, and love that doesn't vanish at the first sign of discomfort, is far more precious than the drama she thrived on. When people like her reappear, it's not about closure or reconciliation. It's about reminding you that you are enough without them. You can't go back. The life you've built moves forward. Qley and I continued preparing for the baby. I started writing a letter for our child, a small, private project about love, honesty, and resilience. Every so often, I glance at that nursery, at her little kicks, and I think about my ex. Not with anger, not with longing, just recognition that the world keeps moving, and so do you. By the time the pregnancy hit 6 months, my ex had disappeared from our circle entirely. Mutual friends mentioned she was dating someone new, living in a new city, rebuilding her life as she saw fit. I didn't care. I didn't need to, because life had taught me something. The people who leave don't get to dictate your story. The ones who stay, who commit, who build with you, they define your world. And for the first time in a long time, mine was full. Update 1. It's been about 6 months since my ex reappeared, trying to slip back into a life she abandoned. By now, she's fully realized she can't just reclaim what she left behind. Every mutual friend, every shared acquaintance, even distant family, everyone saw the truth. She isn't irreplaceable. The first few weeks after her attempt to return were tense. She sent messages, awkward, desperate, vague apologies. I thought I could fix things. "I just need a chance. Can we talk?" I forwarded every single message to Qley. She read them, shook her head, and said, "We're fine. You don't need to engage." Which was exactly right. The relief wasn't from retaliation, it was from clarity. She had tried to come back into my life, expecting the past to bend to her will. But it didn't. Interestingly, I noticed a change in mutual friends. They no longer whispered about my ex's return. Instead, conversations centered around Qley's pregnancy and how grounded our relationship had become. It was subtle, but the shift was palpable. The ex was no longer the center of our story. She was just a footnote. I heard through the grapevine that she tried dating again. Online profiles, friends of friends setups. She even moved cities again. But everyone reported the same thing. She'd lost some of the charm that once made her magnetic. People saw her patterns clearly now. One quiet evening, Qley and I were assembling the crib. She laughed at a wobbling side panel and said, "Can you imagine someone trying to come back now?" I just smiled, tightening a screw. "I don't think she even matters anymore," I said. And it was true. I didn't feel pride or satisfaction, just a deep, grounded calm. The most important lesson settled in slowly. Boundaries are not punishments. They're recognition of reality. My ex's attempt to re-enter my life wasn't dramatic or shocking anymore. It was a test, and I didn't need to prove anything. Life itself did it for me. By month 6, our little world, Qley, Moose, the nursery, our routines, felt unshakable. I realized something else too. The sense of loss that had haunted me when my ex vanished was temporary. The person who mattered most, who was committed to building with me, was right there. I could look back without bitterness. I could remember the hurt and the abandonment without letting it define me. Life after betrayal isn't about revenge or poetic justice. It's about living fully in the space that remains when you stop protecting people who walked away. And that's exactly what I did. Final update that it's been just over a year since my ex showed up on our doorstep, smiling like nothing had changed, and I realized something crucial. She wasn't irreplaceable. Qley gave birth last month. A beautiful, healthy baby girl. I've never felt a joy like this. Quiet, steady, grounding. Moose, our loyal Labrador, now has a tiny human to supervise, and our home feels alive in a way I didn't know it could after a year of absence and uncertainty. I think about my ex sometimes. Not often, but enough to recognize the lessons. She didn't come back because she loved me. She came back because she assumed time paused while she wandered off. That absence gave her power. It didn't. Life had moved forward without her, and I had, too. I had learned patience, resilience, and the hard clarity that comes from living honestly. Her absence taught me boundaries. Her return taught me perspective. And Qley, through her unwavering commitment, her humor, her warmth, taught me that love is steady, not theatrical. When mutual friends mention my ex now, it's in the past tense. They don't whisper or speculate. They talk about how well I navigated the year, how I built a life worth keeping, how I didn't let someone else's indecision derail my world. I've kept the memory of that morning, her standing at the door, expecting to step back into my life, and seeing Qley standing there, 6 months pregnant, calm, and unapologetically present. I can still see her smile falter, the first real recognition that she wasn't the center of my universe anymore. And that recognition, silent and final, was more powerful than anything I could have said. I don't carry anger toward her. I carry clarity. I don't celebrate her failures. I celebrate the life we built in her absence. Every morning I watch Qley rock our daughter, see Moose snuggle her tiny feet, and I feel the deep peace of knowing. The people who matter, the ones who stay, are the ones who define your world. My ex isn't part of that world anymore. And that, more than anything, is the closure I never expected to find. Quiet, undeniable, and complete.